So good evening, everyone. Today is Thursday, November 18th, 2021. It is 7:05 p.m. This is a meeting of the Pioneer Valley Regional School District School Committee. A link to view the school committee meeting will be on the website at pvrsdk12.org, or you can view it on facebook.com/BNCTV. The public is welcome to attend here in person. Also, for some citizens' comments, we do have some people joining us via the Google Meet option. We are still in a hybrid option, and that vote took us through December, so it's also being held via Google Meet. But if something were to happen to the Google Meet this evening, we would still proceed in person. So I'm going to go ahead and call the meeting to order. It is 7:06 p.m. So if we can go around the room here first, and then we'll get the folks that are joining us via Google Meet. So Jeannie, you can start.
Jeannie Milton, Bernardston.
Bernardston-Northfield here.
Karen O'Neill, Leiden.
Alan Genovese Warwick.
Michelle Geruso, Leiden.
Robin Knipe, Leiden.
All right, and then we have Jim Bell.
Here.
David Young.
Here.
Stephanie Winslow.
Here.
Nathan Schwartz. I saw that Nathan joined. He might be having trouble with his mic. Nathan, are you here? I don't see him. He was here. All right, well, hopefully we'll see Nathan here soon and I can count him in on the meeting. Julie Burke Northfield here. So first we have our citizens' comments. We do have one person here in the room with us. So we will start with Kathy Hawkins Harrison.
You want this to start? Don't you have some special guests to introduce?
We always start with citizen comments.
Okay. So later in your agenda, it appears that you are going to be discussing and evaluating the current transportation policy. And I just wanted to throw out some examples of where a broad sweeping policy that just basically says all student transportation has to be done by bus could be pretty difficult, or certainly has not been very applicable for a variety of situations. Certainly if you're talking about a large group activity, kids are going off on a field trip or what have you, an entire grade is going. Yes, ma'am?
Kathy, are you talking as an employee of the school or as a citizen?
I'm talking as an employee of the school. Should I wait?
Then I don't, does that come under, that, to me, that does not come under citizens' comments then.
Oh, okay.
I don't know, I could be wrong.
I'm not sure as to the rules with that. I'm honestly not. Is anyone, Alan, are you familiar with that?
You're an employee of the district. You're speaking for as a staff person, so I think you would not fall under citizens' comments.
Okay, that's fine. I thought that was the appropriate place, so I'm happy to wait.
Okay, thanks, Kathy. I'm sorry about that. That's fine. And thank you, Jeannie. All right.
Can I just mention there's a real echo for me listening? I think it has to be a little bit further back.
A little bit further. Is that better? Okay.
We'll work on it.
Okay. Get on that, will you?
There's going to be a delay between hearing straight from somebody and how long
Through the speaker.
the system out to the speakers, so it's kind of either or.
Okay, then the first person I have via Google Meet for citizens' comments is Lois Stearns. So Lois, you can go ahead. Hi, Lois.
Hi.
Thank you for having me. First of all, I want to thank you and Pat for coming to Northfield Select Board meeting last Tuesday night and informing all of us that were there of what is going on. That was very helpful. Thank you. Okay, my concern may be answered tonight because I noticed that there was earlier here, there was a meeting of this subcommittee of the regional agreement. So maybe that'll answer. My question has been several times that I've been on here, is about the status of the regional agreement. And the reason I'm concerned about it is because the definition between operating and capital expenses, and it makes a huge difference to Northfield, which category is used when you're paying a bill, because we pay about 50% of costs over there at Pioneer and of the district. So if one town claims that something is a capital expense, for example, this could affect the way, if they change it to operating expense, then we're paying quite a large share of that town's amount that they've had to expend. So I am concerned about the interpretation. And of course, in the draft of it, it's $5,000, but that hasn't been voted. So it's, somebody is making decisions as to where that goes. The other comment that I have is, the administration probably knows, of course, they know, they've lost 2 facilities managers in a very short period of time. Does that have anything to do with the way they're being asked to do some of these jobs or not? I'm just bringing that up as a comment. Thank you.
Thank you, Lois. Okay, next here, well, actually, for citizens' comments, this is also Mr. Soicher, and he's speaking on, as an employee as well.
Would you like my experience, or?
Sure.
I don't know what our policy is regarding public comments. In my experience, I have observed school committees require that speakers be residents of the town in which the schools are located, and I have certainly worked in districts in which employees who do not live in the town are welcome to provide public comments.
Does he not live in the town? Is that what you're saying?
I'm not sure where these 2 speakers reside. I perhaps assumed that since our administrative secretary put them on, that it was something that was allowed. So I didn't look into, the facts surrounding
Yeah,
that.
I think the only comment I would have, if they're employees of the district, and what they're going to speak about is something that they have knowledge of in that capacity, then they should probably do it at, as whenever that item is on the agenda.
Typically, though, we haven't invited people to give feedback during,
Okay. Well, if that's the practice, then you should probably continue with it.
Okay. Yeah, me too.
This is your call. I think
Yeah.
you're Shane.
All right, I know. Yeah, Robin.
I think I'm not a legal person, but it would seem to me that citizens' comments are for people from town, but certainly the people that are working here, their opinion is very valued. So in the past, we have allowed people to speak while we were speaking about something. I understand that, I don't understand the legality of that, but I think in past practice that we have done that.
I'm just recalling that I remember during the, even our recent finance and superintendent searches, members of administration have, come up and spoken and gave their input. I'm in favor of allowing, Ms. Hawkins Harrison and Mr. Soicher to speak. We certainly can certainly if there's any objections to that, I'm willing to hear it out. Jeannie?
I have no objections. I do feel, though, if they want to bring up a topic that is being discussed tonight, that that's when they should be speaking, not during citizens' comments. I agree. If it's something that's on the agenda, yes, you speak during that agenda item. But if it isn't on the agenda, then it may have to go under citizens' comments.
Okay, so are there any objections to that? Oh, Lois, go ahead.
In case anybody has any question, I mean, I'm not employed by the district, that's for sure, but I have been chairman of the finance committee in Northfield for many years, so
Well,
I
I would
don't
value your expertise, Lois, that's for sure. So what is your practice, Lois, or how do you understand this?
I think what they've said about having them speak as employees of the district is appropriate.
Is appropriate?
Yeah, and not as citizens.
Citizens, okay. Yeah, please.
Superintendent recently did a survey of other superintendents asking if public comments were allowed at their meetings, which everybody said they were, and when was the most, when were those comments allowed? And the large majority of respondents said that public comments were allowed only at the beginning of the meeting, and in some cases, they were allowed at the end of the agenda, but I think there were very few in which superintendents reported that public comments were allowed during the agenda.
Yeah.
The agenda.
Given that they're employees.
No, this was public comments in
Public
general. The
comments,
public
yeah.
comments
Yeah.
take place at the beginning of the meeting, and
Yep.
the vast majority, there were some districts that said we also allow them at the end of the meeting. There were no or very few districts that said we allow public comments in the middle of the meeting.
Yeah.
Okay. Karen?
Yeah, and I think that's been our past practice. In fact, I think we discussed this after a few meetings where having people join in during discussions just wasn't being efficient, wasn't working.
So is it appropriate then for someone at the beginning of the meeting to say, I'm an employee of the district, not a resident, this is on the agenda, I'd like to speak to it? In all fairness, it would keep them from having to be here all night also. So,
Quite honestly, that's when I would prefer it, because just from an equity standpoint, I think that if, the public isn't allowed to engage in the actual agenda item when we're discussing it, I don't know, I could go either way with it, but, Alan?
Yeah, so there's a reason for that. You've heard many times it said it's a meeting in public, it's not a public
Right.
meeting. So the committee could be here all evening if
Yes.
the public were to be able to
Yeah.
weigh in
Right.
on everything we're talking about. It makes sense to me that if we have something on the agenda and someone has information that is germane and may contribute to our decision-making, that it would make sense to hear what they had to say. I don't see that as under citizens' comments, I don't see that as an outsider. I see that as a member of the administrative team. And I'm making the assumption that the superintendent is aware of what they would have to say. And certainly, there's a role that the superintendent could hear what that was prior to a meeting and share that. And that would be my preferred method, that, I spoke to the administrative team, there are some issues here that have been identified, and then those are put on the table. So in some cases, that may be appropriate. In others, it may be that the superintendent would like the committee to recognize a person to add more information to our deliberation.
Okay. So in the interest of time, I feel comfortable moving forward, having Ms. Hawkins-Harrison and Mr. Soicher speak during citizens' comments, if that's okay with you?
Sure.
Okay. And then I could perhaps get in touch with the MASC and just find out, what districts or what they recommend. Is everyone okay with that?
Yep.
Okay, thank you. So, Ms. Hawkins-Harrison, please come back up.
I'm not okay with that.
Go ahead,
May I
David.
speak?
Yeah,
Thank you. Can you hear me, or is this a waste of time?
no, we can hear you.
All right, first time for everything. When I have spoken during citizen concerns, it has been extraordinary as a school committee member or a town coordinator to have to play the card of being a resident and speaking at citizen concerns. And I did so when I couldn't get recognized. I couldn't have a matter placed on the agenda by the chairman, or couldn't get recognized, or got talked over by certain administrative personnel no longer with us, who presented errors in fact, but the conversation would go on and on, so to correct the record. So I think that, if we want the input of our staff, it should come during our meeting and it should be invited. And if they're coming to us at citizens' concerns, it basically says, the administration is not taking my input. This is kind of a last-ditch effort. That's what citizens' concerns is. So I got to agree with Alan. It's appropriate to have them, if we want them, during that discussion. We don't want to hear from the citizenry at every turn in our discussions. But our staff are not citizens. And if somebody's so cross-threaded with the administration and they live in our district and they need to come as citizens, that says something to me.
Okay, thank you,
Thank-
David. No, I appreciate that. I truly see both sides here. I think that what we're getting to is that we really want to hear from Ms. Hawkins Harrison and Mr. Soicher, regardless of the timing. Do people agree on that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes.
So just to make sure that all of our bases are covered, Ms. Hawkins Harrison, I will invite you during the transportation item, and Mr. Soicher, if you could just come off of mute and let me know which agenda item you would like to speak of regarding? The same one. Okay, perfect. All right, if you then don't mind bearing with us here. I appreciate everyone's patience while we work this out. Okay, then we have Mr. Wyatt. Not sure if Mr. Wyatt needs to come off of mute. Or maybe we'll come back to him. Maybe he's having some audio difficulty. Jessica Marshall.
Hi, this is Jessica Marshall. I am a Warwick resident, and I'm happy to speak with you all tonight. Nice to see some old friends at the table. Thank you for letting me speak. And I'd like to say welcome to Superintendent Kinsella, and thank you, Julie, for being our new chairperson. I would like to speak about the agenda item to make a commitment to the 7 to 12 students from Warwick. I'd like to speak on behalf of some of the families from Warwick who have been in a long relationship with Warwick, with Pioneer Valley High School, and really value that relationship in educating students in the district. And it's the hope that we will be able to continue to send these students to Pioneer as Warwick transitions into an independent district using a tuition agreement. Tonight's agenda allows for the commitment to this agreement and to supporting Warwick on that initiative. So hopefully that will be, the Pioneer will have an opportunity to demonstrate their intention to keep these students coming to town. It's certainly beneficial for Pioneer to have the students in class and to generate that income from that generous agreement. And my hope would be that everyone there sees the benefit of that and the value of keeping this relationship strong. I know that it's been both ways. This has been a long-term relationship. And that you see all the efforts that Warwick has made to remain in relationship with the district, to have a positive influence and effect on the district, and to honor the will of the people in the town. Yeah, we're looking forward to making this happen with everyone. It's a very exciting initiative, and I think that Pioneer can understand where Warwick is coming from. You know, being a very small district is like being a very small school. So we need to have good, positive relationships together. And I'm looking forward to hearing your discussion about all that. Thank you.
Great, thank you, Jessica. All right, is Mr. Wyatt available now? All right, we will come back to him.
He's on, he's putting up a sign asking you to unmute him.
Oh, let's see here.
It's up in the upper right-hand corner.
There's two of Mr. Wyatt. Let's see. All right, let's try this one. Oh no, it says I can't unmute someone else. Isn't that lovely? I wonder why I can't unmute. I can remove him from the meeting, but I can't unmute him.
Maybe he has to do it.
Maybe you have to do it on the bottom.
Yeah, that's interesting that it says I can't unmute him.
He must have to unmute himself.
He has to unmute himself and Julie.
So, Mr. Wyatt, you could call in, or, oh, Stephanie raised her hand. Go ahead, Stephanie.
I was gonna say you can either press the space bar and that might unmute you, or you can hit Control D and that can unmute you too. No? Oh, man.
I can put, let's see, in the chat here. Oh, where's the chat? Right here.
Are you looking for the phone number?
I was going to put a cell phone number in the chat for him to call. There's a cell phone number there, Mr. Wyatt, for you to call in.
The last time that happened to me, Julie, it was when I signed into the Zoom meeting and I didn't check the audio part. That's when and that's why I couldn't unmute myself.
He's actually signed in twice.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm just guessing.
Can Mr. Wyatt see the phone number in the chat? I can't see his video right now, but Stephanie, is he nodding his head or?
He is on the phone, so I'm saying.
Oh, okay. So let's hope it's gonna ring here.
Yeah.
May I just make a plug for in-person meetings? May I pause for a second?
Yeah, maybe after next month.
Mr. Wyatt on a laptop or a phone?
Mr. Wyatt, are you on a laptop or a phone?
On a laptop. He's trying to call in, I think. He's holding up his phone.
How does she know?
I will animate what he's doing. He's holding up his phone. I think is it ringing?
Next to his name on the list, he's not muted on your laptop as the admin?
It is muted on my laptop, but I cannot unmute him.
As
Yeah.
an administrator, you can choose to mute certain folks.
It says I can mute people but not unmute them for some reason. Which I realize doesn't make any sense. But
Okay, he's holding up the phone again.
I'm not getting a call, but I only have one bar right now.
Here, you want to try my phone?
Yes, please.
413.
here, I'll put it in the,
3165.
413-530.
3165.
or actually, yeah, 530. 3165.
Oh, he's calling in. It looks like the phone just joined in.
Oh,
Hello?
hello, Mr. Wyatt.
Okay, I made it.
Yay.
Yay. All
All
right,
right,
go ahead.
There's a bunch of echoes, but I'll go ahead anyway. I'm here in response to the agenda item about a tuition agreement with Warwick. And you may have heard that DESE has said that we cannot open until 2023. Warwick is contesting that. I will send you a letter that we received today from Senator Comerford and Representative Whip, who spoke on our behalf to DESE, saying that OPEB should not be considered a debt, but rather an ongoing expense. We also have our attorney talking with DESE's attorney about this issue. We plan to meet with them very soon. So I just want you to be clear that this timing with getting in some kind of language from the district is really important to us. The other issue that I want to mention is that DESE is also saying that Warwick is responsible to pay back the state loan from the acts of 2018 now. Now, we were told by the state overseer that that could not be paid early. Many of you were at a meeting in Northfield of 4 town boards where the overseer said this very definitively, that the term of the loan could not be changed. So Warwick acted on that premise and had an annual town meeting vote to leave the district. We are now finding that the goalposts are being moved on us, and we are contesting this issue as well. So I just wanted to update you on those things, the financial pioneer, and also the
All right, Mr. Wyatt, thank you very much. I appreciate your comments. You're breaking up, and the 3 minutes are up. So, thank you very much for signing up to speak tonight.
Can I just say, I'm sorry that all of this is happening.
Thank you, Jeannie. All right, next is Mr. Snell.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes.
Excellent. I was a little concerned about that. Good evening. Thank you for making some time for us to talk. I'm here as a representative, not as a representative of the Warwick Select Board, but as a representative of the Education and Governance Committee, and as a citizen and former parent, pioneer parent. First, thank you for putting the language related to our 712 students on the agenda for your consideration and making time for public comment on this important issue. One important thing to consider is the persistence of the citizens and the leadership of the town of Warwick in reopening a thriving and innovative primary education experience here in the town of Warwick. Town members have dedicated hundreds of hours and thousands of dollars in time for redesign and reopening of the school. One of the downsides of this closing of the school has been a flight of parents with children from the district, and as predicted, from the town itself. Another downside is the unhappiness, frustration, and ill will that continues among Pioneer towns related to this issue. The town has reached out to Pioneer with 2 significant offers to keep the school open: Innovative HM2, Horseman 2 proposal, and an additional proposal for assuming additional costs in education at the Warwick site. Former administration, the school committee promised with the closing that the district would realize substantial financial savings, and this did not materialize in any of the promised parameters. Yet the district closed the newest and the safest airflow and efficient building of the K-6 students in the district. Citizens of Warwick will continue to be persistent and use tools available to them, will publicize their goals and propose and will seek litigation as needed to reopen this school, this up-to-date school for the education of the children of Warwick and the neighboring towns. I do ask, and this is as a citizen, not representing by the committees, I do ask that the school committee consider at least take a moment to consider whether this is the time to reconsider the reopening of negotiations with the town on the reopening for the next school year for all of the children of the district in a clean, safe, well-ventilated school. If not, I encourage the district to quickly move on with the support of the signing of the agreements that will allow us to transition to an independent district and rebuilding of relationships with the neighboring districts and that support Warwick's initiatives. Thank you for making the time.
Thank you, Mr. Snell. All right, so that concludes our citizens' comments for the evening. So I respectfully ask that if you are joining us via Google Meet and you are part of the citizens' comments, that you switch to viewing the meeting on via Facebook at this time. And we thank you for your participation. Okay, next on our agenda here is the approval of minutes. Do we have minutes?
No.
I'm not certain if they made their way into the packet.
No.
Okay, all right, well then those will be on our next meeting. And then we can move into our report, so we can have Mr. Ryan Potter give his report.
Okay, thank you. So I'd like to start off by just saying that this Friday and Saturday night, our theater students will be putting on America's Next Top Model Student at 8 o'clock. So I know they've been working very hard to put this production together since the beginning of the year, and I encourage you all to go to it if you're able to, because I know it'll be really entertaining. Also, unfortunately, our winter track team will not be able to have meets at Smith College due to Smith trying to keep numbers down in their facility, but Lucy has actually been a big part of this. She's created a running club, winter running club, so that kids that are passionate about the sport, so that they don't truly miss out on their season. So this gives them the opportunity to, run with their teammates and still have a good time. I'd also like to talk about Ms. Malsh's great culinary arts program. So recently, all the high school classes have been making Thanksgiving dinners, and so it's good to develop their time management skills and collaborate. Yeah, for sure.
We all could use that.
Getting all the food out, at the right time and putting the meal all together.
Hire them to help us.
Also, using grant money, the school is able to purchase all brand new microwaves and ovens for the students to use. So I think it's really important that the students have the updated, proper appliances to use so they can make the highest quality product. Also, I think they take more pride in the food they're making if they have really nice stuff to make it with. And also, when around the holidays, they will be making gingerbread houses, and this qualifies as a sort of portfolio project. So what that means is they can use it to reflect on and use in their senior exhibitions when they're seniors and it comes time to graduate. So I think that this class offers a variety of really great things, and it's awesome that we have it here. Thank you.
Great, thank you, Ryan.
Thank you.
Next is a chair report. So I just had a few things to discuss with everyone. First is just a couple of housekeeping things. Just at the end of our meeting, if you happen to have a snack or something, any wrappers or water bottles, just make sure that we are disposing of them on our way out the door. We don't want to put too much stress on staff here to clean up. And also, with your agendas or any pieces of paper, that you don't feel like keeping, just make sure that you put them in the recycle bin. Tyler's put them in the back there for us, so be easy to remember as we walk by. Let's see here. I wanted to be able to read some kudos that I received from Interim Superintendent Kinsella. There's, with the staffing shortages and just with some of the vacancies, our staff has really stepped up and done a phenomenal job in the schools with tasks well outside of their job responsibilities, their typical job responsibilities. So a lot of that work has been done in food services and in the custodial arenas. So union presidents, Kim Godfrey and Claire Brennan, have been making breakfasts and lunches, running the dishwasher, along with the admin assistants, Joanne Wallace and Brenda Beck, and also the principals, Kevin Burke and Megan Dismaris. Pinch hitting in all three kitchens was our director, food services director, Mike Honorato. Relocating from Bernardston Elementary to Pioneer when needed, Sue Townsley and Georgette Lambert. Relocating from Northfield Elementary to Pioneer is Renee Tila. Custodial, vacuum and mopping floors, cleaning toilets, emptying trash and recycling, washing cafeterias, tables, is our principal, Megan Dismaris. She's here with us, so thank you. Washing cafeteria tables and also attending to trash removal and such, we have Principal Kelly Carrier. And also, you know, we wanted to note that Bridget Hammond has been helping out with custodial in the morning. And she's also put some cones out, traffic cones. Let's see. Teachers are vacuuming their own rooms. Teachers emptying the milk pails and gathering trash. I love the story about the shucking of the corn. So there was corn that was donated. Was that the local farm here?
We purchased it.
Purchased it, okay, yep.
Yeah,
The kids, yep. So they were shucking the corn to help with the kitchen. So many people in the district, teachers, staff, the admin team have been stepping up really in every capacity to make sure that the district runs smoothly and that the kids are well taken care of. So on behalf of the committee, we just want to say thank you, truly, because that is just excellent work, well above and beyond. I had written down the blue ribbon ceremony, but I believe that that's going to be part of your I had the honor of attending the ceremony, and it was absolutely beautiful. I have to say that, you know, we're all members of the school committee, but being there and actually getting to see the teachers and the staff interact with the kids, and the kids each did, or several grades came up and either sang something or read some poems. It was incredibly touching to see the children behind this work that we do, because ultimately that's why we're here. But we don't get to see them enough. So it was a wonderful opportunity to see them. And Nathan was there as well. Stephanie was there. Am I missing anyone? Mr. Raymond came from the Bernardston Select Board. It was just really a lovely ceremony. We have been, or Patricia's been very busy meeting with select boards, but we did have the opportunity, she and I, to meet with the Northfield Select Board this week. Just gave them an update as to how things are going. I'm hoping that maybe if you still have that data with you, we can share a little bit about that. Wonderful. And then we did have the issue of the school committee subcommittee assignments. So the town of Bernardston still has not been able to appoint the vacancy. So we are hopeful that that will happen soon. So if anyone is out there from Bernardston, we really would love to have you. So I'll talk a little bit more about that during the subcommittee assignments. So I think that that's all that I have for this evening, so I will turn it over to you.
Okay, thank you. Can people hear me? Well, I'm new, and I can't believe that I have the good fortune of inviting Lucy Kester and her parents. Why don't you all come up and sit at this table if you don't mind? Pull a chair up. The Massachusetts Association of School Superintendents has an annual Superintendents Excellence Award. And that award is intended for a student who achieves at a high level academically and is involved in a broad array of activities. So I have selected Lucy Kester as the 2021-22 recipient of the Superintendents Excellence Award. Let's give her a round of applause. And if I may, I'd like to share with you what will be read when Lucy receives her certificate at an awards dinner at Franklin Tech on December 2nd. There are students who achieve academically at high levels, whose transcripts are replete with advanced coursework and a stratospheric grade point average. These students are to be admired for their hard work and intellectual tenacity. There are students who excel on the athletic field, participating in multiple sports and leading their teams as exemplary captains. Their dedication to physical challenge and personal improvement inspires us. There are students who make music, paint pictures, write poetry, or design sets for the school musical. We revel in their artistic accomplishments and wonder at the creativity they bring to whichever medium they pursue. There are students who engage in the democracy of their school and town communities. They seek to amplify the voices of others and to make change that will cause those communities to become ever more just and welcoming environments. We at Pioneer Valley have an extraordinary young woman in our midst who, remarkably, I'm getting teary-eyed, excels across all of these categories. Lucy Kester, gifted academic, athlete, musician, and all-around righteous person, is the Pioneer Valley recipient of the Superintendents Excellence Award for 2021-22. Lucy has served in multiple capacities in student government. She has captained cross-country, indoor track, and track and field teams, has sat first chair flute in the Pioneer Valley Symphony Youth Orchestra, and is a member of the National Honor Society. Lucy has worked as a summer camp counselor and as barn and field crew on a local farm. And perhaps most importantly, has been of service to others by volunteering at the Stone Soup Cafe and shoveling snow for neighboring seniors. Those working with Lucy observe her moral compass and emotional integrity in action. We have been struck by her courage in speaking truth to power and her ability to do so respectfully, effectively, and in concert with others who look up to her as a role model. There is no greater achievement for an educator than to see their student become a good and capable citizen. Pioneer Valley educators are delighted to recognize Lucy Kester as a good and capable citizen of the first order, and we, along with her family, joyfully celebrate her well-deserved recognition.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. This is a great honor.
You're welcome.
You worked hard for this honor.
Yeah,
You did,
that's
Lucy.
right.
And congratulations to your parents and your whole
Yeah.
family.
Yeah.
What a wonderful honor.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, we've just got a room full of great people. Gretchen Licata, will you come up and say hello, please? And you all should feel free to head home. We love your presence, and it's a school night, so
Yeah.
folks often head out when they're done. So Gretchen Licata is our new and fantastic facilities director. We are so happy. Gretchen is a graduate of Pioneer Valley. Her children attended Northfield Elementary, and we reached right across Route 10 into our neighbor's campus. We love them all, but we are so happy that Gretchen has joined us. Gretchen comes to us this evening from Cape Cod, where she just participated in the annual conference of the Mass Facilities Directors Association. Mass Facilities Administrators. Thank you, Gretchen. We're glad to have you, and we'd love to hear from you.
Thank you very much. I have to say I feel very supported in this role. It is, I have a lot to learn. I don't know these buildings very well, so I'm really hitting the ground running, trying to learn as much as I can, as fast as I can. But one thing that was amazing at this conference I went to is how many other facilities directors reached out and were like, we know you're new to this. Here's my number. Here's my email. Please contact me.
Huge.
So that felt really good, and I learned a lot there, so that was great. Please feel free to contact me if you have concerns, and I'm really, really happy to be here.
Great.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Welcome. Thanks. You should feel free to go home, too. Don't stay for the whole meeting, really. Thank you, Gretchen.
You're welcome.
Is Kerry in the room? No, Carrie Baird. So we are so happy to have hired an athletics director, Carrie Baird, who is also a local person. And you may have seen her on the fields outside because she is the coach of the field hockey team, and she took that team to the States. Do I have that right? Or the
Division? Division?
To the state tournament. She took them to the state tournament. And Carrie is a small business owner. She owns and operates Splash of Paint Stables in Bernardston, and she also is a longtime healthcare worker working in rehabilitative settings. So we are really glad, you can imagine, to finally have an athletics director on board. It's been terrific to get to know her. So welcome to Carrie Baird.
We can clap for her, too.
Megan, come on up. And is Ashley coming up with you? Megan Damaris and Ashley Fogel. Everyone knows that Northfield Elementary School was the deserving recipient of a National Blue Ribbon School recognition. And Ashley and Megan have also just come back. They went to Washington, D.C. for 2 days of ceremonies honoring the 325 schools from across the country that received the recognition this year. And I will leave it to you.
Hi, Megan Damaris. So I guess first I just want to say there are many, many schools that deserve this award. We're lucky to be one of them, but education is, we're in a tricky time, and we've been through a lot, but we are doing the hard work, as our colleagues are all across the country. So it was really quite amazing to be in a space with amazing educators, administrators, and we learned a lot from that. So can I go backwards, though?
Please.
All right, so I'll just share, this was the award that we received at the conference. And we also had Congressman McGovern come last week, I think, and present a proclamation, so this is pretty official. And I know this could be any school in our district, so I just want to acknowledge that and all of the hard work of all of our faculty and staff and students and families and community members. We did have a really great celebration in October, on October 28th. It rained on the 27th, which was great because the 28th was just absolutely gorgeous. And we had a lot of families come. We had some current Pioneer students, former Northfield Elementary students come. We had Kenzie Gibson, Natalie Rowan, Jonathan Bodenstein, and Lucy Kester couldn't make it, but we did share her speech as well, so thank you. The time that we got together, to me, was really more about the coming together than it was about the reason why we were together. We had been working, over the years, we've had what's called all-school meetings, where we come together every month, and children present. It's very informal, it's not rehearsed, but it's a great time to celebrate the great things that are happening in our school. We have lost that over the last year and a half due to the pandemic. So that was, besides graduation, our first time coming together again as a community. And it was powerful. And we are now needing to and wanting to figure out a way to keep that going inside in a modified way, because we can't have all of our students together in one small space at one time. But it is really valuable to come together as a community, and the absence of that over the past year and a half was profound. So we are eager to keep moving forward with that. Let's see. So again, I really think I wish all of our staff could have gone to Washington, D.C. It was much more than I expected. It was very inspiring to hear from great educators. And I'm going to ask Ashley to share a little bit from her perspective. Thanks.
So yeah, it was an amazing event, really done incredibly well with a bunch of teachers and principals and superintendents. But there were two speeches that were incredible, and I would say if anyone has 5 minutes at some point or 10 minutes, you should watch Juliana Urtubey, who is the National Teacher of the Year. And there are speeches that she's made that you can kind of get the gist of her incredible story. And Deputy Secretary of Education, Cindy Martin, spoke at the actual ceremony. And really, she was speaking about what all of the National Blue Ribbon schools have in common. And one thing she said, and I'll quote her, is, "I know what you do. You center your students, all of your students, each and every one of your students, by focusing on equity and meeting the needs of your students. You figure out what your students need, when they need it, how they need it. You lean in closely to understand the needs that your students are expressing so that you can deliver quality education that's just in time for what your children need. You center your decisions on the child, the whole child, and the outcomes, while academic, are important, the social emotional outcomes, the ability to become actively literate, contributing, participating members of our communities and neighborhoods. Those are the outcomes that you center yourselves around." And I think that's really what we strive to do at Northfield Elementary School and other schools in our district. There were a lot of people sitting in that room who were really proud of their schools, and we were really proud of our school.
And I just want to add 2 other things for sharing. Our 5th grade, Miss Grease's class, has participated in a poetry contest. It's voluntary. And there are some awards. Actually, I'm going to just, can I pass this around? So you can just take a peek at some of the poems that were submitted, which are quite amazing, just a reflection of the great work that's happening. The other thing I wanted to bring your attention to is that, like I said, we're slowly returning to normal. We're not there yet, but we are having our food drive next Monday. It's an annual event. We have been collecting food to donate to the Northfield Food Pantry, and what we do is we gather as an entire faculty and staff. We line up from the school to the library, and every item gets passed along with our children. We're mixing our different grades together so that we have that peer support as well. And we'll have our tally by Monday morning, and everything will be delivered by the end of the day on Monday. So that's exciting as well. And that kind of community service is also part of the good work that happens in schools.
How can we contribute to that, Megan? Can we?
It could, so, I mean, certainly anything could be sent over to Northfield tomorrow or even Monday morning. And then if it doesn't make it there, Northfield Food Pantry is always accepting, so.
Great, thank you.
You know, in time for Thanksgiving as well. So thank you.
Thank
Oh,
you.
Thank
you.
Sorry, one more quick thing. With all of the accolades to the people that are helping in the different schools fill in for people, I just want to say Patricia was there with me I don't know, 6:30 one morning, helping with sweeping and mopping and such. So we're all in it together.
Yes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
All righty. I was going to engage the committee in a discussion about what types of presentations you would like each month, but I think given the packed agenda, I will hold on that.
Okay.
And I will bring you something great next week. We'll find one of the programs to come forward. Lastly, for my report, I want to share just a bit about enrollment numbers, and it's great news. Last October, October 2020, we had 631 students enrolled in the district. And this October, 2021, we have 657 students enrolled, which is an increase of 26 students over the past year. And I like where I see the growth. Our pre-K has grown from 23 students to 39 students. We also have a large first grade. This is combined across both elementary schools. So that's a super high level, just the big number, but that's where we are with enrollment.
That's great.
And that will conclude for me my report.
Great, thank you. Okay, Joel, our Director of Finance.
You wear that lumberjack shirt because you were coming here today?
It wasn't planned, but. Good evening, everyone. That's going to be a tough act to follow. A lot of good news in this district, but I'm sure everyone will be really excited to hear these financial reports. Okay, so just starting off for the first one, the accounts payable report. Does anybody have any questions on that before we get to signing of the warrant?
No. Nope, 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 I read it all.
Which one is that, Joel?
So that's the large report.
The
It's,
89-page one?
Oh, the
89
89-page
pages.
one.
The one that didn't get.
I don't know if that one's printed or not. but-
Okay, it didn't make it into our packet, but I can
That's
see
fine.
why.
Yeah,
That wouldn't be a lot, please.
I looked at it online.
Is there anything that stands out that you would like to bring to our attention?
No, I mean, everything is on here is pretty typical. I mean, I know it's a lot of pages to go through. So if anybody does have to take a look at it and needs clarification on anything, just feel free to reach out to me. So that being said, was the warrant being passed around, or was that?
Oh,
So this is just you, this is just you, this is just you, this is everybody.
okay.
And this is just one, so I should
That's
pass
the
the whole
supporting
thing.
documents, yeah. Okay. We will pass this around.
Okay.
While that's happening, I'm going to move to the next
Oh,
item,
okay,
which is sorry.
Mr. Genovese has a question.
Yeah,
Yes.
I'm sure it's a simple answer. I'm just trying to figure out, so when I look at the expenditure report, so is it, let's take financial overseer, the 2,000, we go across that line. The very last line when it says zero, budget balance,
Yep.
zero, but we're only encumbering 818. When it says percent of budget, is it zero because it's percent of the total budget?
That's
Or the total of that line, the total district budget?
So that last column just represents the amount of budget balance still available. So because what's been expended in that line and the encumbrance equal that 2,000 original budget, there's nothing left to spend in that line, so it's at 0%.
All right,
Yeah.
thank you.
So I'm just going to start just give you a few topics of interest for the dashboard, which is, I know it doesn't get printed out too well, but this is the one with the graphs. And so just to inform the committee, the reason why the professional salaries is so much higher in this month is because there actually were 3 payrolls this month. So you'll notice that at the top, professional salaries, almost $700,000. Support, up $70,000 from previous month, but that's just because there's 3 payrolls. This will happen one more time in the year. I believe the month will be April. Complementing this with the high level, because it might be easier to read, and I apologize, I'm probably going to be jumping around to these reports a little bit, so if I'm going too fast, just say slow me
I
down.
do
Yes.
have a question on that dashboard
Sure.
page. Can you tell me in which category do the school choice charter tuitions fit? Is that miscellaneous?
So that's the last category, the tuitions category.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Welcome. So moving to the high levels, I just want to point your attention to the number that's all the way at the bottom right, not the percentage, the one right next to it. So this is the budget balance that's currently available in the budget. This is, if we were to end the year right now, this is what the district would have for a surplus.
Which document are you talking about, Joel?
So it's titled High Level -G/F.
Is it on this one?
No, it should be another one that should be in your package.
So so that the committee is aware, we have a plan to start printing the financial reports differently. So expenditures will be on, let's say, green paper, something else will be on pink paper, something else will be on yellow paper, so that, as Joel, and we'll put big headings at the top.
It was actually the first, it's the
It's
first
the
one in
first
your
one, okay.
packet. Yep.
Okay, so I'll let everybody settle first.
High level GF, got it.
So
Okay.
far, we've spent 7.98% of our budget.
Nope, so that's
That's
actually
what's
what's
left.
remaining.
Oh, that's what's left. Okay.
So
Yeah.
going back to that number, that it's a little under 1.2 million, I don't believe that that is a real surplus. There are a lot of things that still have not, I'm sorry, there are open positions and vacancies that happen in this district, so that's going to skew the number a bit. I don't think that by the end of this year, we're going to have a surplus of $1.2 million. That's totally ridiculous. But again, the reason for that is because of the amount of vacancies and open positions that the district does have. So as we fill these positions and get people into their right place, you'll notice that this number will drop significantly. So I just wanted to let the committee be aware of that. Yes. Oh.
So we haven't increased the salaries for our superintendent and for our financial director. Where is that funds coming from?
So this is addressed a little bit in the budget transfers that I provided. So there's going to have to be some shift of money. So for example, the director of finance salary is going to have to be shifted to contracted services because the company that was hired, TMS, my company, will be taking that salary this year. As far as superintendent line, that's something that I will have to look into more deeply. There are a few salaries that I need to find out where this money needs to be coming from, and I don't want to just blindly say, oh, we're just take it from here and we'll roll with it, and then have a problem 3 months later, like, oh, we have to, take it. So before I
understand that. So we're going into negotiations, and so we're really getting into budget season. So I would like to have a more definitive answer of where that money's coming from.
Sure.
Okay.
I will have the answer for you.
Great, thank you.
So just continuing with the expenditure report, a lot of the overages that you will see are salary related. And again, some of these are addressed in the budget transfers document, which we will get to after this. Other than that, I think that the district is looking like it's in pretty good shape. There are a few other lines overexpended in utilities. And again, I'm going to be working with our new facilities director, Gretchen, to go over this and make sure that we're on the right track and we are budgeting enough money for those. Other than that, I think, again, we look like we're in pretty good shape as far as the rest of the expenditure report. So shifting over to the general fund revenues.
I just have one question.
Sure.
Actually, it's the third sheet in, school committee expenditure report.
Yep.
It says Leiden location, Leiden 2.
So in the budget transfer sheet, I'm taking care of that. That
Oh,
should
okay.
be there.
Okay, thanks.
Oh, yes, please.
So line item transfers that are going outside of the categories, are we putting together a document that then would come back to the committee and we would vote on those transfers?
So I actually reached out to the overseer about this
Thank
because
you.
I was a little unclear on how this worked. So when we get to the budget transfers, this was kind of like I'm going to give it a shot and get some feedback from the committee. But yes, if it does go in between categories, so if I'm taking salary money and moving into supplies, which obviously would not be you would not really do that anyway, that would be something that I would have to pass the committee to approval, and also the commissioner's office. So for the revenue report, again, everything is pretty standard. We're still in early days. I just wanted to clarify that I did look into a few of these. For example, the tuition line, transportation reimbursement, Medicaid. In past years, it looks like that these revenues are received later on in the year. So again, I need some more clarification on that. But what I can tell you is for the bonds proceeds, which we will talk about in a few minutes, that is something that matures on December 1st, and when we renew our loan, we'll see that money come in. Excess and deficiency, to those of you who read my finance memo for October, that is a report that we are working on, and we are going to file to the state until they can release those funds to us, and that's when that money will come in as well. I think that was everything I wanted to mention on that. Again, it's so far from what I'm seeing in past years, everything looks like it's pretty typical how it's coming in. Are there any other questions on any of those reports before we move to the budget transfers?
You had mentioned that you were going to look at, how do I put this? The way we do the budget, the way we do the budget versus the way DESI would like to see it in line item. Is that something you have looked at, or?
So it's not something that I have prepared to share with you tonight, but we are creating budget templates that will, by DESI function code, that will clearly explain which each location, each department, each school will fall under.
That's what I was looking for, the function codes.
Yeah, so it's coming soon.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Can I just?
Yes.
So just, because this is a personal concern of mine, I've been writing about to people. So the tuition in charter school, our budget is 973, whatever. And the only reimbursement we get from the state is about 69,000 towards that. And the rest of it, our towns are paying.
Okay, so with that being said, I'm going to move into the budget transfers. And this is a format that I believe the previous finance director used. Similar format. And again, going by the overseer's advice, I did try to keep into the same category. So I don't believe that these require a vote, but I do want your feedback and I do want your approval regardless to make sure that any of these, if you have any questions about what I'm doing here or what does this account mean, or because unfortunately, because I have been here for 2 months and I know it's not really a great excuse, I don't know your accounts well enough, and I still need to kind of track some of the trends that are happening. So can I tell you with 100% confidence that 2-3 months from now, I might have to reverse one of these? It might happen. That's why I just want to be fully transparent with the committee, saying that this is a possibility that might happen. But if everyone is okay with these, I will proceed and you can see these changes in the next month's reports. A lot of these transfers are kind of cleanup, just kind of transferring little bits from, maybe facilities lines, and also salary lines. New accounts had to be created because it was identified that there may be a couple of these salary lines weren't put in the right place and they just have to move. So it's literally just a matter of transferring that money into this new DESI account that I've created. So that's why you'll see in. So yeah, I was just about to bring that up. The assistant principal, that was brought up last.
I brought it up.
So that was just coded, and it's the wrong description. It has to get moved to the correct account.
And I think I questioned why we had 2 nurses' salary in Bernardston Elementary, and now I see that it's a special education nurse.
That's correct, yep.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I just had a question about the Leiden. What is that for? Maintenance of equipment supplies, the 250 and the 550?
Oh, so that is what was addressed, that $800 that was part of Leiden. I broke that out, so it was split evenly to Bernardston and Northfield. So what was already in, if you go back into the expense report, you'll notice that I believe that Bernardston already had a higher amount than Northfield did, so I just evened them out so they both had equal amounts in there. So that's how I split that $800.
What, was there like $800 just left from Wyden or something? I don't understand.
I'm really not sure because this budget was billed before I was here, so I don't know I don't know if maybe it was like a budget error or when, during the upload or
Oh.
something happened, but I know that shouldn't be there.
Mhm.
So that's me just trying to distribute it fairly. So I'm not entirely sure what happens next, if you vote on it, or if I just move on to the next.
Oh, on the transfers?
Yes.
Good question. Historically, do we vote on
We
them?
only vote if it's in a different category, overall category.
Okay, so they're all in the same category, so I believe that I can just go ahead if there's no other questions on these.
Great, thank you for that clarification.
Thank you. So what is next? Okay, so next we have the lunch report, and I'm just going to read out the balances and the activity that happened during the month of October. So on October 1st, 2021, we had an opening balance of $52,997.96. We received total revenues of $46,892.53. The total expenses for the month were $41,332.48, which left us with a total net profit of $5,560.05, leaving our ending balance for October 31st is $58,558.01. Are there any questions on that before I move to the last thing I would like to discuss with the committee?
I'm just wondering, it looks like Pioneer is the only one that's lost money for this period of time. And it seems to be part of the breakfast program. They served many fewer breakfasts than elementary schools. And does that help determine what we get from federal sources? Because PVRS got much less from federal sources than either of the elementary schools as far as money, but has more students than each of those schools.
So it does affect the funding, so I can certainly look into this, and I will discuss with Mike Honorado to get like maybe a definite answer why that might be.
Okay.
And I can report back to you at the next meeting.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, so the last thing that I have, and it's not on the agenda, but it's something that we need to push through, and this is the renewal of the state deficit note. This was something that was passed by the school committee on January 10, 2019. We went out to bid, and we received 4 bids to how we're going to renew the note. Can't talk. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to read the bid information that we received, and then with the committee's approval, I will push forward and get the signatures from Chairperson Burke, and I will let know what we decide, and we can renew the loan.
Is everybody clear on what?
No.
Okay.
What is this
So,
regarding again?
So the district, I guess a couple of years back when there was some finances that were running into, they approved to borrow money from the state. So the state has, the district has received this money and now we have to pay it back. But we need to renew it to receive the money for the following year. So I don't know exactly what transpired for why this happened, but I can tell you that this is.
so it was in this note, when did we originally take it out? In 2019?
Correct.
And I believe the amount is 300,000? Did I have that right?
For the first year or what we're renewing now?
Well, what was the
It's
original
gonna-
note?
Well, you mean the total amount?
Yeah.
I don't have that on me, I don't think.
I'm trying to think what the total amount was. David might know. David might know what the.
No, well, that's what they thought, but that's, they
David
found money.
is on.
Sorry that I didn't mean to ask it if it's not necessarily pertinent, but, so this was money that we borrowed. And is this something that we need to renew every couple of years until?
Every year.
Every year. So I assume that we're looking for the lowest interest rate.
Correct.
Okay. Does that make more sense to everyone? We're looking to borrow, we have to borrow this money to pay back our debts. So we get bids from 4 different financial institutions, and then we go with the lowest bidder.
Correct.
Where is that in the budget?
So if you look at,
1 second, David.
if you look at the high-level report,
That's the first one?
it's that first one. Correct.
When can we start paying that back?
We are.
We are
paying it
now.
back.
Yep, so the 364 that you're seeing in the high level, it matures on December 1st, so that's when it's due, and that's when they'll receive the payment.
Go ahead, David.
Does that pay us up?
1 second, Robin. David's. Go ahead, David.
We borrowed approximately $1.5 million, and the term was for 10 years. The sum was to cover our general fund losses and our lunch fund losses.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so, and each year we'll pay it back and then borrow, but less by about $50,000.
Yeah, the principal will go down each, obviously we're paying on the principal, so.
We should, I mean, the interest rates are not terribly high, but they're probably going up. We should explore, once again, paying this down because we have the reserves. And just make it understood that we're not looking for emancipation from state oversight. But for instance, this year, I understand we had more E&D than were permitted, and it needs to be essentially rebated, applied to reduce our assessment to the towns. We can't keep it. I don't know, that is a loan. That's a question for an accountant. It's not an expense, so it's kind of a cash flow event, but I think we ought to try to pay it down. I know the finance committees in the various towns have supported that, paying it down sooner.
Yep,
All
we
right,
can
thank you,
explore
David.
that, yep.
So we did receive 4 bids.
Yes, we
And
did.
Greenfield Cooperative Bank,
Yep, so we received 1 bid from Newburyport Bank with an interest rate of 0.58%. We received another bid from Adams Community Bank, 0.45%. Unibank, 0.55%, and then Greenfield Cooperative Bank, who is the current, who we currently use, and they have 0.37%. So clearly they are the lowest, and we should remain with them, is my recommendation, obviously.
so if we could
Can
entertain.
we do this as an action item? Then I move that we award this bid to Greenfield Cooperative Bank at the interest rate of, did you say
0.37.
0.37%?
Oh, I'm sorry.
3.7, thank you.
0.37, yes.
0.37.
Yeah, that's what I wrote,
Wow.
0.37%.
No.
Is that correct?
Yes.
Wow, that's great.
Yeah, no, you're looking at me
Robin?
like.
3.7?
No.
No.
That's how small it is.
0.37.
Yeah,
That's
it.
amazing.
Okay.
Don't question it, don't
Yes,
question
numbers
it.
can go that low.
We must have a great credit
Quick,
score.
before they change their mind.
Right, exactly.
Did you get a second?
I'll make a motion oh, you did?
Alan just made the motion.
Oh, I'll second it.
Okay. Any further discussion? Okay, go ahead, we can do a vote.
Jeannie Milton, Bernardston, yes.
Raina Dasty, Northfield, yes.
Nathan Swartz, Warwick, yes.
Yep. Karen O'Neill Leiden, yes.
Alan Genovese, Warwick, yes.
Michelle Jeruso, Leiden, yes.
Robin Knight, Leiden, yes.
All right, Jim?
Jim Bell, yes.
David?
David, yes.
And Stephanie?
Stephanie Winslow, Northfield, yes.
Great, and Julie Burke, Northfield, yes. So that passes unanimously. Thank you, Joel.
Thank you. Can I get the
Thank you, Joel.
signatures now, or is?
Sure, you can leave it with me and I have to sign a few things, so.
Does he have to take it back with him, though?
Yeah.
If you
Well, I
want,
have to have the treasurer, so Scott has to sign off as well.
Okay.
So I will need these back next week. And
Oh, sure.
I don't know, who is the committee secretary, because they need to sign off as a witness.
Probably Karen could as the co-chair. The secretary isn't here.
Okay.
We
Or-
don't have an official secretary.
We don't, do we?
no.
Well, I was thinking of Anne.
But she does have an.
No,
I
she
think as
doesn't.
long as another
Oh, okay.
committee member, I think it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
We can
okay.
do that.
All right, thank you. All right, good, thank you. Yeah, and we'll leave them here and you can, they'll be.
I'll get them.
Okay.
Okay, perfect. Just put that here for now.
They did it one time.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Joel.
Thank you.
All right.
It would have made sense 4 times.
So moving on here, we have this really packed agenda. The subcommittee reports. So negotiation subcommittee, Rena is the chair.
So we, negotiation subcommittee met last night to review some proposed changes to the MOA regarding mask usage, and we'll be discussing that later in the agenda.
Okay.
And we are preparing for
Upcoming.
negotiations.
Okay. Great, thank you. Building and grounds, I don't believe you've met, correct? No. Curriculum and personnel?
We have not met.
Okay. Budget subcommittee, I don't believe has met. Policy subcommittee.
We've been very busy. Okay. We met on November 8th with Tracy Novick of MASC and completed our review of the J policies, which concern students. We have 2 more sections to go, K, which is community relations, and L, educational agency relations. We hope to finish those on our meeting on December 13th. We also met the following day, November 9th, where we discussed the draft policy on the use of private vehicles. Because past practice and best practice and the realities of bus availability, as well as the nature of our geography, we decided to bring this to the full committee for discussion, and it's on the agenda. It's a big one. Thanks.
Okay, district agreement subcommittee.
The district agreement subcommittee met this evening at 6 o'clock. And in light of a letter that we have received from DESE, we decided to remove anything pertaining to Warwick as a separate document and investigate how we would handle Warwick's obligation to OPEB. You've heard several comments from the community tonight, and we still cannot bring this document forward to the full committee yet. We are hoping that we will have an answer by the end of December.
Okay, thank you. And the Warwick Transition Subcommittee?
We did meet 2.5 weeks ago, and is now the time to talk about the letter that is in your packet. It was a question that Patricia and our council brought to DESE, or was it just you, Patricia, that
I
talked to
think it was on
DESE?
behalf of the school committee.
On the
and-
school
and
committee,
council.
okay.
Yes.
That is in your packet. It's from the Massachusetts Department of Elementary and Secondary Education. I'm not going to read it, but in light of this, we are still waiting. It sort of goes together with what I just said about the district agreement and waiting on OPEB.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Moving on to our business. So the first item here, discussion and possible vote regarding Warwick grade 7 through 12 students. So to provide some context here, a couple of weeks ago, Mr. Holloway, who is part of the local government town of Warwick. Alan, what is his official title, Mr. Holloway? Education Committee, I believe?
Warwick Education Committee.
Town of Warwick Education Committee.
Okay. So he was looking for the school committee to provide a simple statement explaining that we would like to be or we would be willing to educate the children of Warwick from grades 7 through 12, pending a mutually agreed upon tuition agreement. So essentially, it's just us stating our intent that we have, that is our intent to educate the students should Warwick officially remove themselves from our district, separate from our district. My personal opinion is that seems perfectly reasonable to me. And I would like us to be able to draft something, or I can perhaps draft it. We can compose it this evening and vote on it, so that way they're able to have that intention known. So that is, several of the members that you heard speak were speaking with regards to that specifically. Yep, Jeannie?
I would like to make a motion that we pursue an agreement with the town of Warwick to educate their grades 7 through 12 students.
I'll second that.
I just have some questions.
Sure.
So they're asking to come in as tuition students, not unlike children from Vernon, correct? So we're not talking about school choice here.
No. Correct.
But are
Vernon
they?
is tuition.
Excuse me?
Vernon is
Right,
tuition.
right.
Okay.
And that amount is
17
17 or
A little
18
bit.
per child. So my question is, are they looking for us to guarantee that we will take with this agreement, that we will take all of their 7 to 12? Like, what if our numbers?
So it's pending a mutually agreed upon tuition agreement. That, the tuition agreement's completely separate, and then we haven't negotiated that
Right,
yet.
I understand that.
Yeah, okay.
I understand the financial piece, but I'm talking in terms of numbers. Like, they're asking us to guarantee that we're going to take their students.
No.
No.
So they are asking for us to state in good faith that we would like to be the school, the designated school for the grade 7 through 12 Warwick kids, as long as we can mutually agree upon a tuition agreement.
I think I know what you're asking.
Yeah.
So it's not in perpetuity forever. So in this agreement, it might be a 5-year agreement, because although Warwick would be an independent school district, they're still responsible for their, pre-K right through high school. So the state's, asked the question, where would you intend to send the students? And so it's always been the intention to have the students continue to come here, and you heard that, earlier, many reasons why that would be. It's a significant amount of money in terms of like $350,000 or something, that would really help the district. The idea here is it's a win-win. You have the funding, the revenue to help support the overall education of all your kids, and you're getting tuition, and the duration would be something that you would negotiate. And then you revisit it every 3-5 years or whatever.
And so can I ask you, if they decide if you're a student in Warwick and you don't want to come to Pioneer, then you would be tuitioned out to another school?
That would be up to the town of Warwick, I would think.
Yeah,
No, it
now you
doesn't-
get into
No,
a
it'd be
school
the-
choice.
Wouldn't
Now
it
you
be
get
up
into
to
Oh,
the
school.
hold on 1 second. David?
So what we learned about the way tuition agreements work, we learned in the context of Irving, sending kids to Pioneer. And at a time when we badly needed more money, we investigated this. And the way it works is, DESI says, I don't necessarily agree with them, but they say you can only have one designated tuition school. So when if a child, if we have a tuition agreement with Pioneer, if a child wants to go to choice out to another school, Warwick pays the Vernon rate, 17,000, and Pioneer gets docked the $5,000 in the settlements, and that goes to the choice school. So that, I mean, that, when you talk about concern about whether there'd be space, that'd be a real money one.
Well, you know, having been on the school committee that built this school, you know, actuaries changed. So we expected the numbers to be much higher than they are, and it, you know, could happen again.
Well, I don't see it being much different than what it currently is.
Right, right.
The agreement, it would be proposed for 3 years. Without special authority, we can't sign something for longer than 3 years.
So the way I understand what you just told me, and I'm just, so I understand, is that if we sign this with them, they have to pay our district, and then if, for that child from Warwick, and then if that child decides that, say they want to go to Greenfield, then they would subtract that normal 5,000 school choice. That would go to Greenfield, but we would still keep the difference. Is that right?
Yep.
That's right.
Okay, thank you.
We do have some draft language that was proposed to us, and it reads, should the town of Warwick move forward with establishing a Warwick School District, the Pioneer Valley Regional School District School Committee has the intention of being the designated grade 7 through 12 school for the future students of Warwick School District. Pioneer Valley Regional School District will work with the town of Warwick to create a mutually agreeable grade 7 through 12 tuition agreement.
Was that suggested language from Desi?
I don't know if they, sorry, I don't know if they suggested it, but they saw it and they thought that it worked fine.
So a little procedural thing. So we have one motion on the floor.
Yes.
And I don't want to move this language unless maybe we should be voting on that as the intent, and then go to this and move perhaps this language.
So Jeannie, if you could restate for me, I'm sorry, do you remember what you originally said?
I'd like to make a motion to pursue an agreement with the town of Warwick to educate their grade 7 through 12 students.
Okay.
Does that sound right?
Yeah, and
Yeah.
Michelle seconded that.
And I second it.
Okay. So we can either vote on, further discuss and vote on that motion, or we could Jeannie could amend her motion with this language. This is really up to you. Robin?
Just before you do that amendment part, did we mention that we were going to put a time period in there, or not?
That's part of negotiation. It's 3 years.
Oh, that's part of negotiations?
Yeah.
Okay.
3 years.
Okay. Yeah, so that probably would be with the tuition agreement negotiations, the period of time. Okay. Jeannie?
So just add to mine, using the language as proposed.
Okay.
So using the language as proposed.
As read by me?
Yes.
Okay.
As read by Julia Burke.
Okay.
And could I just say, since it makes sense,
Yeah.
that you include in your motion for a 3-year, it would be a 3-year period? Because that then gives clarity to, and it wouldn't be less than that. I mean, that's in the interest of the committee to have a 3-year, and you can't go beyond that, so.
Yeah.
I didn't understand what you said, Alan. It was.
I think
I'm sorry.
that would be determined at the time of the tuition agreement, wouldn't it? I mean, they just asked for a simple statement at this time, and I personally would feel more,
I
okay.
didn't want to get into any length
Right,
of
too
time.
granular.
Okay.
Okay.
And I will second Jane's Jeannie's new.
Amended
My
motion,
upgrade.
okay,
Yeah.
okay. Any further discussion?
I got to just ask. So I understand the simple agreement, but does this agreement in perpetuity then, or not? I mean,
No.
I'm not talking about money here. I'm just saying, that's our intent, and then we'll negotiate from here.
Yes.
Okay.
There'll be 3-year increments.
Well, it
We
might
don't know
not be
that.
3, it might be 1.
That might be one.
Yeah. Okay. Any further discussion? Okay, so we can go ahead with a vote. Jeannie?
Jeannie Milton, Bernardston, yes.
Raina Dastu, Northfield, yes.
Nathan Swartz, Warwick, yes.
Karen O'Neill Leiden, yes.
Alan Genovese, Warwick, yes.
Michelle Jeruso Leiden, yes.
Robin Knight Leiden, yes.
Jim Bell?
Jim Bell, yes.
David Young?
David Young, yes.
Stephanie Winslow?
Stephanie Winslow, Northfield, yes.
And Julie Burke, Northfield, yes. So that passes unanimously. Thank you all. Okay. Next on our business is discussion and vote on MOA wage proposal increase for PVASP union. So that is in our packet, correct? So did you want, yes, please.
This is the wage proposal that the school committee discussed in executive session and approved unanimously in executive session. And we are bringing it to you tonight in open session for you to vote on.
All right.
Can it be summarized in a couple sentences?
Yeah, sure.
Yes. The district is facing a labor shortage, in particular in roles covered by the PVASP. And we realize that our starting wages in some of those positions are too low, and it's hampering our efforts to hire people. So for instance, a food service worker right now coming in on step 1 would make $12.49 an hour. Which leaves us far from competitive. So working with the business office and working with Rick Kingsley, our overseer, we've come up with a plan where we would take all of the current workers in the PVASP who are making less than $16 an hour. We would move them on the salary grid to the step that pays them at least $16 an hour. And that is... that covers 11 people. In addition, food service workers who are already making $16 an hour would receive a $1 an hour increase. The second part of the MOA is to create one new position, a 25-hour per week district-wide food services worker.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Sounds good.
Thank you.
So, go ahead, Alan.
So for discussion purposes, if we need to, I would move that we accept the wage increase overview proposal. The MOA as presented.
I'll second it.
Robin seconded. Okay, further discussion? All right, go ahead, Jeannie.
Jeannie Milton, Bernardston, yes.
Raina Dastu, Northfield, yes.
Nathan Swartz, Warwick, abstain.
Karen O'Neill Leiden, yes.
Alan Genovese, Warwick, yes.
Robin Knight Leiden, yes.
All right, Jim Bell,
Jim Bell, yes.
David Young,
David, yes.
Stephanie,
Stephanie Winslow, Northfield, yes.
and Julie Burke, Northfield, yes. So that passes by a majority. All right, thank you. Now, I'm just doing a time check. It's 8:45. We have until, we need to do our hard stop at 9:30. Is there anything on the agenda, and I'm asking anyone here, including our union representatives, Patricia, if there's anything that we should perhaps change the order of in order to expedite the meeting, so. Patricia?
I think the signing warrants, while important that if we need to push something off, that could go off, that
Yes.
conversation.
Okay. So we've done 1, 2, and 3. 4 can be,
No, we haven't done 3.
Nope.
oh, we just did 2. Okay, sorry about that. Robin, did you?
I would like to move up the discussion about the 6th grade transition update that I've heard. I just would like to move that up.
Yeah.
Kathy?
I don't need to speak for Matt, but I know that he's hanging in there virtually. I know that some of your decision-making tonight is greatly going to influence a program that he's trying to get off the ground, and he needs to get information out to kids and parents as soon as possible.
So is this regarding number 7?
It would be hard for.
Excuse me, Kathy, is this regarding number 7 on the agenda? Under business?
6.
Yeah, use of private,
Oh, okay.
right, private vehicles.
Okay. And Claire and Renee?
I think number 8 would be quick,
Yeah,
very quick.
and I'm hoping number 3 is quick.
Okay.
Right, it should be 2.
So is there any objection to doing 3 and 8 right now? We have, if they'll be quick? Yeah. And then we could do the private vehicles, because Mr. Soicher and Ms. Hawkins Harrison is hanging out, and then our 6th grade. We do not need to have an executive session this evening, so that will save us some time. Okay, are there any objections to that change? Okay.
No.
All right, so let's do number 3 here. Discussion and vote on proposed substitute pay increase.
I presented to the school committee in executive session last month as part of our overall wage proposal that we would like to increase our substitute pay. And you can see on here, I'll read it out so folks at home hear what we are talking about. We are proposing to increase the hourly rate for substitute nurses from $30 an hour to $32.50. For food services workers, from $13.50 to $16 an hour. Custodian substitutes from $14.47 to $16 an hour. Teacher, administrative assistant, and instructional assistant substitutes would increase a daily rate of $95 to $110. Longer-term substitutes in those same positions, teachers, instructional assistants, and administrative assistants, who have served 20 days in the same role, on the 21st day, their pay would increase from $100 a day to $120 a day. And lastly, there is no change in the rate of pay for long-term substitutes for teachers who serve in substitute roles that have been planned in advance, and when the substitutes have certification as teachers, they are paid if they have a bachelor's degree on step 1 of that grid, or if they have a master's degree, step 1 on that lane. And this, again, makes us, the district, more competitive. We can say that every single person working in the district, whether they are full-time or temporary, makes at least $16 per hour. And for folks at home, we shared information with the school committee about comparable substitute pay rates in neighboring districts, and this makes us much more competitive.
Thank you for that recap. We entertain a motion?
I'll move to accept the wage increases as proposed.
I second that.
Any further discussion? Nathan?
My only concern is how we're going to pay for it.
The amount of money that this will cost, and I'm sorry I didn't bring that sheet, I brought it last time when we presented, is shockingly small.
But it's an ongoing cost.
It is an ongoing cost, yes.
So I just want to make sure that we're not doing something that we can't afford. I'm all for paying people what they deserve. Everyone needs a living wage. But I want to make sure as a district that we can afford to do it.
I'd like to add that Patricia presented a detailed discussion in the executive session at our last meeting about how,
It would be
where
fun
these
to
monies would come from, and it was well thought out, and it was well planned out, and I am
Thank you, I
wholeheartedly
appreciate
in
that.
support.
And David, and then you, Karen. Go ahead, David.
One thing that mitigates against our low wages is our benefits, the fact we have health insurance. But it's still, $16 an hour is difficult to live on. So I don't think it would get us where we want to be as a school, to be non-competitive. And things are especially challenging right now. People are reassessing, what they're doing with their time and their lives. So paying a living wage is important. I think the thing we need to do is I was sitting here thinking how I'm going to hear about it from community members. We have to make sure we're not going to go forward in the same old way. We need to pay people competitively, but we need to constantly reassess how we're doing what we're doing and how we can do it better and perhaps at lower costs.
Thanks, David.
Yeah.
Karen.
Well, I agree with David, and I would just like to reflect back on how we heard about people stepping up and doing the trash and cleaning their own rooms and serving meals. We need to have people who are trained to do these things and who can also support their families.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Alan?
Just a comment for clarity purposes. So, and I don't have a problem with this, by the way, but, so for negotiation purposes, this becomes the new amounts that would be in the agreement or not? If not, please clarify. All of them?
Yes, these substitute, the entire box on the bottom half of the page is outside of the collective bargaining agreement. Substitute positions are not in the contracts.
Right, I understood that. The custodian, that is not in a bargaining agreement?
These are substitute.
Oh, all substitutes?
This is substitutes.
Okay, so when I read something, I think this is where I'm getting confused. I read something about there was going to be a custodian, but it was that individual would be earmarked and outside the bargaining unit additional for some time?
Yes, that's here,
Okay.
separate from
All right,
contract.
thank you.
You're welcome.
Thanks for the clarity. Thank you.
There you go. Any further discussion? Okay, so we can go ahead and vote. Jeannie?
Jeannie Milton, Bernardston, yes.
Raina Dastu, Northfield, yes.
Nathan Swartz, Warwick, yes.
Karen O'Neill, Leiden, yes.
Alan Genovese, Warwick, yes.
Robin Knight, Leiden, yes.
Jim?
Jim, yes.
David, yes.
Stephanie, yes.
And Julie Burke Northfield, yes. That passes unanimously. Thank you. Okay, so that is number 3. Number 4. Which, yes, fourth item, number 8.
This is a memorandum of agreement. This particular memorandum has come before the committee several times. This is the COVID safety memorandum that discusses masking and other safety measures. There are 3 proposed changes, all of which are quite small. But I am looking at the wrong, no, I'm on the right document. Okay. The 3 changes begin on, sorry. Okay. On the first page, item number 1, underneath the bullet points, where it says note. Staff must wear their masks at any time when students are not wearing masks, unless outside. And this is now the new proposed language we are adding, or during high school lunch in classrooms with teacher supervision. And the reason for this is we simply don't have enough space in the building to space students appropriately during lunchtime. teachers have graciously allowed students to eat in their classrooms during the teacher's lunchtime, but we have a contradiction here. Teachers are not to be taking their masks off while kids don't have their masks off. So Principal Burke recently had to go adjust everybody's schedule, and instead of having 3 lunches, create 4 lunches, so we would have fewer kids in each lunch. That wreaked havoc on everyone's schedule. No one's happy. The union came forward with a great solution, which is there are teachers who will voluntarily host students, up to 10 students in their classrooms, as long as the teachers may have their masks off at the same time. This is a terrific solution. It's a win-win for everybody.
Just one question about that. When do they get to eat?
They would be eating at that time.
With
So
their
the teachers would be at their desks, unmasked, eating, while 10 kids are in their room eating at the same time.
Oh,
And everyone's going to.
okay, got it.
Sorry?
And everyone's going to clean up their own.
Everybody cleans up, yeah. Everybody
Okay,
cleans up.
thanks.
So the teachers don't really get a lunch break then, do they?
Well, we still get lunch. At least we get to eat lunch. This, you know what? Right, it's temporary, and there's enough willing to do it. A lot of teachers are willing to do it, but only teachers who have a high school lunch can do it. Many people said that they would happily, have students in their rooms. It just doesn't work out. Only so many can, but we have enough to make it work.
Well, I just want to say that I appreciate them
Mhm.
doing
Yes.
that
Mhm.
because they don't get a break.
Yes, thank you. On the,
I eat my lunch at my desk.
on the back side,
That's fine, but you
Of-
shouldn't have to.
Yeah.
on the back side of the draft, there's one ministerial change. The second line from the top, there's a new date, April 1, 2022. This refers to the state's COVID leave fund. The prior ending date was maybe December 1, sometime in the fall. The state recently extended the date for that to April 1, 2022, so that's a change. And then the last change is the next paragraph, right above number 9, that says, staff requesting COVID-19 leave under the terms of this agreement must complete the COVID-19 staff absence notification form and provide any requested documentation. And I will tell you briefly why this is so important. Under this agreement, which has been previously signed, the district promises not to take personal leave from staff's personal leave balances when they are out for COVID-related reason that is school-related. The Massachusetts leave is more expansive in that COVID leave doesn't have to be school-related. It's any kind of COVID leave. But for the district to get access to the fund so that we can request reimbursement when staff are out, we need to provide the state with documentation. So we have taken the state's template, we've doctored it so that it's specific to our district, and we need to memorialize this in this agreement so that we can say to folks, if you don't want your personal leave balances used because you've been out for COVID or an immunization, you gotta fill out this form and provide documentation. So the union's in agreement with this.
Great, thank you.
I'd like to make a motion that we entertain the changes as the superintendent described.
I will second that motion.
Second. Any further discussion or any discussion at all?
So what are we voting on?
We're voting on the memorandum
The revised,
Yep.
yes.
as amended.
Yes.
I just didn't use the word amend.
So if there's no further discussion, we can go ahead and vote.
Jeannie Milton, Bernardston, yes.
Bernardston-Northfield, yes.
Ethan Swartzworth, yes.
Karen O'Neill, Leiden, yes.
Alan Genovese Warwick, yes.
Robin Knight Blyden, yes.
Jim?
Jim, yes.
David, yes.
Stephanie Winslow, Northfield, yes.
Great, and Julie Burke, Northfield, yes, so that passes unanimously. Alan, you can probably grab Michelle's mic if you, Michelle had to leave a little bit early this evening.
Yeah.
Okay, so next is number 6, discussion and possible vote on policy review, which is the use of private vehicles. Sure.
Please.
So, let me find that in my packet. So, this came to the policy subcommittee well over a month ago, I believe, or a couple of months, recently, anyway. And what we found was, it was a policy that really wasn't very clear. And in the interest of safety for the students, for the faculty, for parents, for anyone that is involved in getting children safely to where they need to go, whether that's on a field trip, whether that's after for a sporting event, if it's for special education programs. We just want to ensure that we have a policy that has safety first and foremost, and to be able to provide these enrichment activities for kids. So, Karen or Patricia, if you want to, go over the policy and,
Sure.
and discuss.
And if I may do add a little bit to that
Please.
framing, which was really helpful. Council has reminded us that most of this policy is not about law. It is about the school committee's wisdom and decision-making. As the chair said, so that we can protect our students, our staff, and our families, while also running great programming. It may be that what council would typically advise needs to be adjusted given the circumstances in which we find ourselves, which include we are a small district, a rural district, and it is challenging to get bus transportation right now, both financially and because there aren't enough drivers.
So the policy that's before you here, did you want to?
No, go ahead.
Okay. So with this policy that's before us, we're looking at the use of private vehicles for educational programming, field trips, co-curricular and extracurricular purposes. So with the teacher/employee vehicle, the guidelines are here below, which have been vetted through legal counsel as well as through the insurance company. So this is what is necessary for a teacher or an employee vehicle in order to transport a child. The student vehicles, so that's A. Under B, currently students are not allowed to drive personal vehicles to or from field trips, co-curricular, extracurricular activities, including athletic events. And then with emergency vehicles, this just states that the student must be transported via emergency vehicle. And then the letter I here, if a circumstance arises where emergency transportation is not possible, timely, or in the best interest of the injured student or employee, a student-employee vehicle may be used to transport the injured student or employee for medical attention. So we have found as well that this policy we have two kind of competing policies here. We also have the policy that is in our athletics handbook.
And it's section D that really conflicts.
Yes, so in section D, it says students may drive other students or teammates to an assignment site following proper execution of a parent permission form from the driver's parent and the teammate's parent. So I suggest perhaps we pause at this time to hear from Ms. Hawkins Harrison, to hear from Mr. Soicher.
Yeah.
So then we can, begin our discussion regarding this. Does anyone object to that?
No.
Okay. All right, so Ms. Hawkins Harrison,
Sorry.
2
for
hours
you.
later.
Last 2 hours later.
Thank you
win
for
the
hanging in
tenacity
there.
award.
I'd like to just confirm, Matthew Soicher, are you out there? He's got two little kids, he might be, I hope he hasn't signed off.
He just signed back in. He is on mute right now.
Excellent, all right. Only because he has a specific program that he'd like to address and bring to your attention, whereas I'd like to just give you a brief, broad sweep. Yeah, the policy and the actual practice and the necessity of what kind of has to happen in terms of, Karen mentioned our geography, Patricia, you mentioned our ruralness, and sometimes it's just availability of transportation. I have become far more informed about transportation in general this fall as we were working to try to make sure that we had buses for all of our athletic events, and boy, was that an incredible challenge that I will certainly sprinkle into this conversation a little bit. The kinds of things that I just want you to have in your mind as you decide what you want to do are not the broad sweeping, we're going to go on a field trip, we're taking 80 kids, we need 2 buses.
Yeah.
But we know that. It's, okay, you missed the bus. All right, I know where you live. Yeah, you need to call your mother. Your mother doesn't get off work until 5 o'clock. Will she give me permission? Will she feel comfortable having you in my vehicle, etc.? It's those kinds of things that I feel like we need some wiggle room somewhere with parent permission. In the age of technology, Kevin Burke's just gonna laugh. People can text and we can have something in writing that says, Ms. Pullen can, yes, Coach Pullen can drop my daughter off at her grandparents at 9 o'clock after a soccer game because we can't get there to pick her up tonight. Those kinds of things. It wasn't too long ago that we had a teacher here who served as an advisor for a special advisory council where we had 2 representatives who had an incredible experience involving student council, where they went to Northampton once a month. You're not going to get a $325 bus to take an advisor and 2 kids to Northampton. Those kinds of things. The kid is in play practice, and the parents, again, there's a transportation hitch, and the director is willing to, with parent permission, to drop that kid off at a specific location, something to that effect. We had 2 incredible golfers make it to state tournament. We don't need a bus for 2 kids. One of them was a senior. He was ready to drive himself. We worked it through all the proper channels in the end, but those are the kinds of things where we need, I don't know if that's an exception to the rule, but language that gives us some wiggle room. The other thing that you guys are aware of, and I certainly became aware of, bus drivers are few and far between, and Kosmeskis did an incredible job this fall, but there were a couple of times where we had to reschedule games because we couldn't get a bus. Now, we weren't going to ask anybody to drive to Drury in Adams, but we might have asked, if we could have figured out how to do it, how to get some kids to Tech for a field hockey game or something like that, a much smaller group of kids. So it's just the broad sweep situations are no-brainers. It's all those little incidental things that don't happen very often, but happen enough, I think, that we need language to support transportation in a rural area and in our small situation. Matt, you there?
I am. Thanks, Kathy.
So Matt Swercher
Thank
is
you,
our
Julie.
middle school counselor, and he is an avid snowboarder, and he wants to talk to you about a program he'd like to get going this winter.
Thank you. Go ahead, Matt.
Thank you for allowing me the time to speak. Yeah, I second all that Kathy said. I agree with all the things that she said. You know, with no public transportation in an area, it's difficult for kids to get places without their parent or without some sort of transportation provided by the school, and with no money for late buses and no late buses. Kids that don't have parents or families that can drive them to and from school after school miss out on after school help opportunities and extracurriculars after school. And that includes, so the two clubs that I run, Bike Club as well as the Ski and Snowboard Club in the winter, for us to be able to go off campus, go to places like Montague Plains and provide kids opportunities to go mountain biking in a place they may never access and didn't know it was so close to their home, but is too far away for us to bring bikes and students. Again, it's a small club. We may have 6 to 10 students going, and to get a bus for that it just makes it cost prohibitive. With skiing and snowboarding in the winter, we go on Fridays, and we're providing it to the whole district. An opportunity to go to Berkshire East. We get an amazing deal from Berkshire East for students to learn, take lessons for really cheap, as well as rent equipment for the season, and provide an opportunity for them to enjoy the mountain there and a sport that they might not have otherwise access to, or not have access to do it with so many of their classmates and friends. And we do get a bus for that, but you know, the pandemic last year made that not a possibility. We still ran the club, and we had a great time there, and it provided an opportunity for families to really get involved and make it more of a community family event. And I know so many families had so much fun with that. And I really can't see how parents, and they said this to me last year, that they didn't want to send their kids on the bus and then drive there themselves, right? They wanted to just go and not have to pay for the bus and still drive themselves there. It seems like it would make a lot of sense if we went through the appropriate permission slips for families to be able to provide that transportation to and from the event. And also, it's a late night on Fridays, and I want to provide the opportunity for students to stay late. But I also, if families want to leave earlier, thinking that, you know, knowing that we're providing it to elementary and middle and high school, providing that opportunity for families to leave when they're ready to leave and bring students home with them, rather than having the students have to be on the bus for the whole evening. Those are my thoughts, and those are why I would urge you to provide some sort of way for students their families to provide permission for their kids to travel with parents or faculty members, for ease of small clubs, and also for these larger clubs. We had, between families and students, we had 40 individuals who participated in the ski and snowboarding club last year at Berkshire East, which was amazing. And it was a really amazing community feel with both families and students involved. So, thank you.
And Mr. Sweitzer, so last year when buses weren't available, so did the kids have to go with their individual families? Or I know it's been like, I don't want to use the term like Wild West with, I mean, as a parent in the district, I've brought kids, and, you know, we've done all kinds of things. So I promise I'm not, you're not going to get in trouble, like, you know, but I'm just kind of curious as to specifically with this club, how did it work? You know, when you didn't have buses available, what did that look like? Because that's a lot of students and families.
Yeah, we did permission slips that parents signed a permission slip to allow their kid to go with a certain other parent, and I had them say, you know, who's the parent that you're willing to let them drive with. I got parental permission for me to drive several students, and included those students. I always made sure I had more than one other person besides me, to make sure that, I was safe and the student was safe, and, nobody could accuse anybody of anything. And that was a safety measure I definitely followed, but had students, driving with me, and, other parents, carpooled as well, and made arrangements with each other to carpool. And it was out of necessity because we couldn't use the bus last year, so.
So each time, like each week, a student's family would sign off that their student would be going in Mr. Smith's car? Like you would get permission slips each week?
We did it for this season, so they kind of arranged carpools for the season, and there were some families that, switched off every other week they were gonna drive, and other families just figured out their carpool, and we just met there and all met up there, and yeah.
Now, did all of those parents have Corey checks? Is that something that was done?
No, we did not do that last year.
Okay. Robin, sorry, not Robin, Claire.
I think there's situations where, the students, need to drive themselves. There's certain things, that happen, like students who are not participating in sports at this school, but at another school, like Special Olympics that happens, it's, for a short period of time, it's at the bowling alley, and they go after school, and they, how would a student at 2:30 find a ride to the bowling alley for an hour and a half and then back home? I think that's a lot to ask, especially when they're driving here to school.
The parents?
No, the children, the students themselves. I'm saying, I think there needs to be some type of, availability for them to take themselves to some school-sponsored events when they're driving themselves here.
And we're talking about seniors, we're talking about.
Anyone who can drive.
David, your hand is raised.
I hate that guy that throws a wet towel over things, talking about liability, but I find myself having thoughts about our and our community's liability here in these times. I just filled out my annual car renewal, and one of the questions was, do you use your vehicle in business or such? And so I wonder if there's an accident. Was that question just that, not that my insurance for my car is cost and coverage might be different depending on how I answered that question. Does it just have to do with whether the insurance company would, look beyond for somebody else to blame? But what happens if there's a case of distracted driving and there's an accident? What happens when there's an accident? Can we insure this? Can we afford it? It concerns me. Probably not enough to say no if it's the consensus of the group, but let's not ignore it.
Thanks, David. Robin, then Alan.
So just so I'm clear, what we're looking at is, this is a draft of a new policy for use of private vehicles? Or is this a policy we already have in effect?
This is something, the policy that we've had was.
This is a revision.
It's a revision,
This
okay.
is a revision, yep.
And the other part on the back that says it's screenshots from our current handbook?
So this is where the contradictions
Yeah,
lie.
Yeah, that wouldn't be part of the policy. That was my putting in, for the policy subcommittees.
To see where the
all right.
contradictions
Review,
were.
to see, God,
Okay.
I wanted
So-
to make it easy.
So I'm going back to the old days, but the one thing that really jumps out at me is that I feel really strongly that students should not be driving other students or teammates. Absolutely not, even with the parent permission.
Right.
I fought that when my kids were in school, and I personally feel strongly about that. But I do remember oftentimes, my kids were on the ski team, and I would go up and take Holly home, and then with, the other couple other students also. And I understood that it was my personal liability in my car. That was always an understood thing. So having this all written out, I think, is good. And this is clear, and everyone knows it up front. But I don't want kids driving kids.
No.
Absolutely not.
Right, and Robin, So letter A, that's only applicable for teachers and employees.
Employees,
So
right.
this policy this draft does not mention parents transporting children
Okay,
at all.
so, and he's asking about parents, so they're asking for that to be added in. I see.
Alan?
Yeah, it's interesting that both of you picked up on something that I had wanted to ask about. One of them, I guess I was assuming that someone vetted this through the insurance company, and that it's okay for me to say, oh, I don't have any problem at all. I understand that, you know, I'm the primary and so forth. But does the insurance company, and that's the question I have, understand that if there's an accident, that I'm using my vehicle to, on a school-sponsored event, to transport? And I think that question regarding, just for the protection of the parent, we should be asking the insurance company to protect themselves. So maybe you have the answer to that. The second one, why I'm talking, is the point that you're making, Robin, in that the DMV has, and I'm not up on their latest, but they have pretty specific, they used to, of how many could be in a car when someone was driving, and what ages, you know, they could do that to transport other kids and so forth. And if we were ever going to go down, I get a kid driving themselves. I don't have a problem with that. But I do have a concern about, do we put language in that says if we're going to go forward with this, in accordance with the DMV regulations and students transporting other students? Because I think there was, like, how many could be in the car, age differential, the experience of the driver, how many years they've been driving. It's been a long time, but
I can't even believe that this is in there.
I have a newly minted driver in my house, and I wouldn't want anyone to, no, I'm just kidding. Right.
Good, so you can speak from authority here.
So once you are fully licensed to drive, or they give you the license to drive, you have to wait 6 months before you can transport someone outside of your family. I won't air our own dirty laundry, but that is difficult to enforce when, you know, you have friends, can you just give me a ride on your way, you know, that type of thing. So it is something that's, I can imagine would be very difficult to police, you know, or just keep an eye on. And like David said, I've had many children in my car from the elementary school trips that wouldn't have otherwise, or at least that was the impression I had, been able to happen if some parents didn't step up and bring some, say, I'll take a few kids. And, you know, those of us that had the minivans, it was like, I can grab 5, you know, like, now, of course, I know myself, and I know that I've never had a speeding ticket in my life. I'm grateful I can actually state that publicly right now. But I don't know if Raina is a speed demon, and she actually had her license revoked, and you know, but she got it back recently, so she's itching to get back out there. But you see what I mean? We don't know those things, right? And that would be meaningful information to me as a parent if I didn't know the other parents personally. I would have pretty strong feelings about allowing my kid to travel with another parent.
How about your insurance company? Have they said yes?
So the insurance, remember, this is only related to teacher and employee. So Patricia, did you get clarification on that?
So the insurance company has gone over this several times in relation to the notion of teachers or employees taking our kids out. We've got terrific special ed programming. Those kids need to be out in the community. We just needed to clean up our act in that area. We weren't doing it properly. We need I want the teachers protected. goodness forbid something happens,
Yes.
I want our staff protected, I want the kids and their families protected, and I have a duty to ensure that the district is protected. So insurance has gone back and forth over this. There are 2 waivers that link in the online document. One waiver, I'm talking about teachers, would need to be signed by the employee teacher, saying, I get it, I'm driving, I understand these risks, I'm my insurance, da-da-da. And then the other one is the parent or guardian of the child who's going to be driven by a teacher during a school activity. That's all been vetted, and I have to say, I know this is some extra hoops that folks will need to go through, but it means that we won't have Raina, who lost her license but is driving to work. We won't be putting our kids in Raina's car because Raina's going to have to show us her license, a copy of her inspection report. Yes, those are extra hoops, but I personally, I feel comfortable with this in terms of staff. And were the committee to approve this portion of it, then our staff could start as part of regular educational programming where they take, especially the kids in special ed, out into the community, they could get back to that. And I know the parent guardian piece is really challenging. If I may, I feel like I have heard Russell say multiple times, kind of a non-starter is students driving other students on school. We have a duty of care, and if we let us,
Also, I had spoken with our legal counsel about this, and it does open up issues with liability. Anytime you have,
Right.
and I'm speaking to parents, driving as well. That being said, I was part of a ski club when I was in high school. It's an incredible, I remember those years made really left an indelible mark. And even from sporting events, if you're at that meet and the kids don't want to drive the bus home and you can get home a lot quicker. But then I always thought, is there one kid whose parent wasn't able to come to the sporting event and they're riding back on the bus alone? So, I don't know if it's possible. It's 9:30, folks. So I don't know if it's possible.
Can we accept this part?
Yeah.
That's what I was wondering, could you accept
Accept
part
the-
A?
Part A, yeah.
For this evening, and then continue our discussion on the policy?
And where does that leave, the school
Right,
board?
so, Jeannie?
I have a question about the copy of the inspection report. I question the validity of that, because at the time you had your car inspected, which was January of 2021, your car could have changed drastically by 11/1/2021. So even though you had a valid inspection report in January, that may not be so in November. I'm not sure how valid that bit of information would be.
So that's really the state, if the Commonwealth states that your car, we can't inspect cars every month.
No, but I'm just saying, how, for us to say, oh, it had a valid inspection.
Well, as opposed to it not having a valid inspection, I think it's important for it
Yeah.
to be in there.
Okay, I'm
There's
just
that,
saying, I
yeah.
don't know how the validity of it.
It's something. It's not perfect, but it is something. And I think it's
David?
important.
Well, the thought had occurred to me that we could actually do periodic inspections of vehicles that are involved in this. I know that in my life, there's times when I drove vehicles that I wouldn't want your kids in. And
But kids don't care.
stretching brakes or something a little bit long. We want to make sure there's tires under it, and it could mitigate our liability quite a bit.
I think that this went through our legal people, so we
Yeah.
should
Well, this
accept
is,
it.
if I'm a building manager and I make sure and I check off that all the exits are cleared and do everything and document it, it really does mitigate liability.
Yeah.
If we were to engage in something, not Gestapo-like, but just in doing a walk around, a vehicle.
Who's going to do that? Who's
All right.
qualified?
No, just.
David,
do you want to volunteer,
Every
David?
6 months, 6 months from the inspector.
Speed demon Raina.
She's not going to inspect our vehicles.
Thank you, David. I do understand your point.
That's a good point.
Yeah. Mr. Soicher, you still there? I know it's late.
I am.
When would you need kind of a decision on this by?
Ski club starts January 7th.
January 7th.
Is our first ski club. That is our first day at Berkshire East. That is not the day I get permission slips. I am hoping to put permission slips out next week or the week after.
Now, is there availability this year for busing? Like as far as, I know in years past you had used a bus. Last year you couldn't because of COVID. Is there bus availability this year?
As far as I know, I've been waiting on an estimate. Kim Barnes was away for a short bit, and she's catching up. So I'm waiting for estimates on the buses for her, and then kind of have to figure out the distribution of how many kids we might get. It's sort of a chicken and egg situation to figure out how much we should charge each kid for the bus versus how many kids are actually going to take the bus. I have to play that game a little bit and then figure out how much to charge students for riding the bus.
And I do understand that with parents bringing their kids last year, if they enjoyed it as well, then they would, want to go again this year. So thank you.
Can I just ask one quick question? Are you looking for equipment for your club? Like snowboards and boots and stuff, or are you renting everything? I guess what I'm saying is where would I bring equipment if I wanted to donate it?
Thank you so much. That's an amazing offer. I really appreciate that. I think equipment could be, you could talk to me about equipment donations. Yeah, most students rent or own, but I would be happy to take donations, as I'm sure there are some students who would like their own equipment as well, and we could connect students with that equipment and even do it as a fundraiser for Ski and Snowboard Club and sell it for a really low cost.
So I've heard a couple of things mentioned. One is we're now over our meeting time. Someone mentioned perhaps accepting letter A of this, maybe voting on that this evening. And then Mr. Soicher does have a very, tight timeline. So this would be something that we would need to discuss, and that specifically involves parents. So we would need to have something drafted regarding parents. I know that the policy subcommittee has been doing a ton of work. Because we would need something in order to vote next week.
Next week?
Well,
For the
no,
December
continuation
2nd.
meeting.
For the
December
December
2nd.
2 weeks?
Yeah.
Yes, so that was the next point I was going to make. Patricia and I, so next Thursday's Thanksgiving. And then the following Thursday is December 2nd. But Patricia and I will be attending the banquet to honor the students who received the Superintendents Awards. So I was also looking to discuss with you perhaps another day that we could do our meeting. But to stay focused on this policy.
Can I make a motion?
Yes.
That we accept the Part A of this policy?
Second.
Any further discussion? Okay, so we can vote. Yep.
I'm looking at Part B.
We're just doing
We're
Part
just
A.
looking at A right now.
Okay.
Yep. So any further discussion?
I'm just thinking like B and C are pretty straightforward. right? B is students aren't allowed to drive personal vehicles, C is emergency transportation.
Well, the students, we need to discuss whether or not students can drive themselves.
Okay.
Right.
So that's going
How
to,
about C, the emergency transportation?
Well, I think I'd rather stick with just the A. because I
Well,
looked
let's
at
just
it
A.
too.
Well, my motion was for A, so it's not- they already got a
Motion.
second.
That's
Yep.
what I'm saying.
Yeah, yeah.
okay. All right, if there's no further discussion, we can vote. Go ahead, Jeannie?
Was there a motion made?
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm
And a
sorry.
second.
Jeannie Milton Bernardston, yes.
Raina Dastu, Northfield, yes.
Nathan Swartz, Warwick, yes.
Karen O'Neill Leiden, yes.
Alan Genevieve Warwick, yes.
Robin Knight Blyden, yes.
All right, Jim? Oh, looks like you're muted, Jim.
Yes.
Okay. Stephanie?
Stephanie Winslow, Northfield, yes.
And Julie Burke, Northfield, yes. Looks like David is, yeah, it looks like David dropped off, probably because it's past our meeting time. So Julie Burke, Northfield, yes. Okay, so,
I'd like to see this paragraph on the athletics handbook removed immediately. Can we do that? Students may drive other students or teammates to an assignment site.
Which number is that?
That's from the athletics handbook.
Did you say strike? I'm having a hard
Strike
time.
it, yeah.
Oh, I would agree with that.
So I make a motion that we strike D from the athletic handbook.
I'll second.
3D, yeah.
so we hadn't, that wasn't on the agenda to discuss
okay.
the athletics handbook, so I'm thinking that
Oh.
we
Okay.
could get it on the
Yeah, okay.
agenda.
Okay.
So good, Julie.
That was very nice.
All right, so let's put our
Back to
heads
meeting?
together for our continuation meeting.
Can I just ask one question? I really need some sort of thing about the sixth grade, because I'm hearing things in the community, and I'm embarrassed that things are happening that I don't know about.
So, so Patricia can do
Just a quick update.
very brief update. I think that in her roadshow of traveling.
Well, that's
to
where I heard it, from the
Right.
road show, and then I heard it at
Yeah.
the car wash, and I was like, what?
It's a car wash. Car wash, I didn't know there was a car wash.
Not one.
Okay, let's see if I'm putting my timer on. I'm gonna see if I can do this in.
I promise I won't ask any questions. I just want to know
Okay.
what to tell people.
Yep, here's what we can say to people. When I came to you, I think on October 20th, I gave a brief overview of what had transpired to date with the idea of transitioning grade 6 up to the high school. I committed at that meeting to reviewing the financial estimate of costs and to talking with the state about the transition. I met with our business team and Principal Burke to review the numbers, and it was not possible to do a thorough review of the numbers because the plan as it had been drafted to date didn't give us enough information, wasn't strong enough to really cost it out, I will be honest. And in the meantime, since I last came to you, we have received a letter from the state that said, essentially, hey, Pioneer Valley, in December 2020, you voted to transition sixth grade to the high school. In February 2020, we sent you a 2-page letter filled with questions that you needed to respond to, and then you decided to press pause. We haven't heard from you. If you want to make this happen, you need to get back to us as soon as possible. Having done my prior review, having looked at the numbers, having heard from the state, I would recommend to the school committee that I would suggest that we do not have the administrative capacity right now to respond to the state in the way they want or on the timeline they want. That the planning documents, despite all of the hard work, given the way that the vote was I'm being frank, the vote was precipitously taken to approve the transition. the research necessary to come up with a really strong middle school model for the 6th, 7th, and 8th grades in their entirety didn't happen. And so we would be voting to make a transition happen that might not be financially sound, has not been adequately prepared for, and given our my need as the lead administrator to focus on getting a really good budget together, I can't recommend that the committee move forward. And I believe that discussion around a 6th grade transition would be more appropriate as part of a larger review of district programming and a visioning process in which we take a look at where we are with our facilities, with our programming, with our population, with our money, with our people, and think about who we want to be, how we're going to get there, when we're going to get there, and place discussion of where the 6th grade ought to be in that larger framework.
So, having said that, let me try this. I would move that we put on pause the 6th grade transition.
No,
Because it doesn't cancel it, it doesn't undo anything we've done, it's just putting it on pause for more information.
I think we need to discuss it.
we need to.
Yeah.
So
I just
Patricia's
wanted,
going
I just
to,
wanted to know what to say to people, saying that we're reconsidering based on, I needed some,
and we
I
don't
needed
even really
something.
know that yet, so
We don't.
Patricia just gave
We're looking at all the facts.
yeah,
Right.
she gave a Cliff Notes
That's fine.
version
That's
of
fine.
the,
I just want to be able to say that the school committee now knows about this, because I was completely caught off guard, and I did not like that.
Didn't you cover all this at the last
I
meeting?
did discuss this at a meeting.
Where was I?
I don't know,
I don't
but
know.
I had a little slideshow.
Yeah. You did everything she just.
were you on vacation the last one?
I wasn't at the makeup meeting, so is that where you did it?
Maybe.
Yes, I think
Yes,
it
it
was.
was. Yes, it was.
That's why I
was
did
at the
not know
sec-
about it.
Yep,
Okay.
That's
it was
my
the
fault.
second meeting. Yep.
Okay, I'm glad we could clarify that.
Yes, me too.
Okay,
My fault.
so,
All right, so,
Can I ask, just to clarify, so that we know, to make it clear to the community, this is not going to happen in September of 2022.
We don't know that.
well, we don't know, we
No.
have to discuss that. We do. So
Yeah.
Patricia will give us at our next meeting, she will continue to further explain.
I don't have a lot, I mean, I could bring you documentation, but my overall assessment is, the state is saying we would need to respond to their 2 pages of questions that are substantive questions.
yes, they are.
That will take several months. I don't have the time, and I don't, if we're building a budget, answering those questions while some of the underlying work that needs to happen to answer the questions has not yet been done. So yes, it needs to be discussed, but I don't believe that my answer will change. I don't see how this is possible.
And that's
for
why I
just
tried
need
to
to-
frame it, put it on pause.
I just want to make sure, I don't want to vote on putting it on pause.
You do realize again, though, we've spent already 2 years, almost 3 years,
yeah.
discussing this. And
But-
the fact that these questions aren't answered, and this is no reflection on you.
Right.
We've asked our teachers, we've asked our staff, they've put all this time into it, and again, we're saying 3 steps forward, 4 steps back. Every single thing we do. And that is really distressing to me. It may be the right decision,
I hear you. I hear you.
Pat, not Priscilla. But it's just, as a committee member, it's like, why do I bother coming and discussing this for hours? And then nothing happens, and I can take it back to many things that have happened. On the other things, we have done some good things too.
Yes.
We got you.
In fairness, it's very disappointing to know that not one of those questions was addressed by our previous administrator.
Oh, I know, well, that was
Yeah.
another joke.
That's where the big problem is.
Yes.
You got that letter in February.
But please remember, we did push to have a response for
We did.
administration.
Yes.
I know we did, and I had
Yes.
personal
Yeah.
conversations, so the fact that it didn't happen, it is what it is.
Yeah.
Right.
You have so many things that you could spend your
We can
time
do
wisely
just so
on.
much in a day.
I really don't know what we would talk about being on the agenda again.
But don't forget, you've also
Well,
had a committee that's been working on this
well,
since we voted yes.
What will be on the agenda, or what will be part of the discussion next time we meet, which was hopefully within a couple of weeks, is just to say, do we, as a committee, want to decide to push the pause button, as you say? We've already pushed the pause button once, and we said that we would do it not last year, but for the next year. So are we going to extend that by another year, or are we going to go back to the drawing board and say, are we going to kibosh this until a full study's done about the health of the district? And what, so that our interim superintendent has the opportunity to fully assess what's going on and come up with a strategic plan, given all of the components that she mentioned.
I think it's important to realize, though, or remember, we pushed the pause button because there wasn't a response to the state, that a number of people were questioning the numbers behind it and the planning process and the parent involvement. So there were good reasons, and I really credit the committee that when we pushed the pause button then. So that same situation still exists.
But we've had a committee that's been working on this.
I would like to suggest that we are well beyond
Yes.
our and see what's happening. We are not doing.
Right, we're
getting
not ready
anything-
to make a,
We're not getting anything accomplished. It needs to go on the
You're
next
right.
agenda.
Absolutely.
so let's choose that date. Can we,
Can we share that information about your interest in a permanent position?
Yes.
I don't want, I mean, it was on.
It was on the agenda.
so that's
I don't
public.
want-
Thank you, I appreciate that,
don't want to
Jeannie.
just assume that I can share that.
Thank
Oh,
you.
thank
I
you.
appreciate
Thank you.
that. Thank you.
That's important.
So
It's
let's-
very important,
Yeah.
It is,
especially when you're talking about changes like
yes.
this.
So
How about
let's,
Wednesday the 1st? Does that work for anybody?
I'm tentatively holding for select board, but I would do this over
Yes.
the second. I mean,
The first.
so on the first, there is the,
Yeah, 6-town regional.
Yeah.
But that ends,
at 6:30?
Oh my
There's
God.
something like that.
I can't.
Okay,
Two in a row.
What about Wednesday, the 30th?
Tuesday?
Sorry, Tuesday, the 30th.
Oh, that works.
I have jury
I
duty.
can do it.
Not a night.
Well,
Come on, Karen.
Karen, they'll cancel you.
It's 10 at 10. I'm gonna start talking like, Karen.
okay.
Did I bully Karen into it?
No, not at all.
Does the 30th work for everyone?
Yeah.
It does not work for you?
If Rena gets her license back, maybe she
Monday
can.
Monday the 29th.
Yeah, right.
Monday, the 29th.
Yeah, that's okay for me.
Yeah.
Mondays.
Monday, the 29th?
Yeah.
Stephanie's thumb is
Do
up?
we have enough time to post it?
Oh, yeah.
Okay,
Yes.
no, I'm just.
Yeah, no,
thinking
thank
out
you.
loud.
I won't be there.
That's been an issue in the past. I
Said
don't
I
want
was
it to
select
be
board.
an issue again.
Oh, okay.
You don't need me.
So,
Well, Stephanie needs to go to bed.
I know she's yawning, yeah.
Steph, we caught that.
You are on the big screen.
I know, right?
That's not fair. She probably has a dog on her lap, too.
And she's in
No,
her recliner.
maybe a cat.
Tell Ella we tried.
So, Monday, the 29th,
Okay.
at 7 PM,
Okay.
we will have our continuation meeting of this meeting, moving it from December 2nd.
And David won't be there.
It's
either.
good. I have a
Oh,
dinner
this,
date.
okay. All right, thank you, everyone. Oh, we need to vote to adjourn.
Yes, we do.
Make a motion that we adjourn.
I second it.
And we need to go around the room.
Oh, just ask for the.
I know, sorry.
Jeannie Milton, Bernardston, yes.
Rena, yes.
Nathan Swartz, Warwick, yes.
Karen, yes.
Alan, Genevieve, yes.
Robin?
Oh, Robin, yes.
Stephanie Winslow, yes.
All right, Julie Burke, yes. Thank you, everyone.